everybody, it's Christina from Card Making Magic. Shabby Chic is very popular at the moment, and so is making tags. But if you buy your tags, then they're usually quite flimsy and they're not really very big. So I'm going to show you how to make a tag that's plenty big enough for you to add all the decoration on it that you want to add. So to make the tag, we're going to use just one piece of card. Now this is UK A4 size, but I think in the US it's letter size. Now to help me make this, I'm going to use my scoreboard, and I'm looking for the line on my scoreboard that says DL. So I'm going to butt this up to the side and I'm going to score it on the DL line. And then I can fold it on that line and give it a nice sharp crease. And then I'm going to cut this piece off, but I'm keeping this piece for later, so don't throw that away. Now the next thing to do, once you've trimmed off your extra piece, is to just cut this down to 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to find the 1/2 inch on my trimmer. And we'll cut that down to 3.5 inches, but we'll leave the spare piece as it was. Now once you've done that, you need to find the middle of this card. So if this is 3.5, we want a mark at 1 3/4. So we'll put it there. And then we need to come down the card by about 2.5 inches. So there's my 2.5 inches. And we're just going to make little marks on the card. And now I'm going to need either a pair of scissors, a cutting knife and a metal ruler, or I'm going to use my trimmer. So with the trimmer I'm going to line up my marks, and I'm going to use this cutting edge to line them on. So I want that mark at the top there and this mark on the line at the bottom there, and then I can just cut. Then once I've done that, I can turn it round and line up the other side. And again, just cut. Now once I've got the pointed piece, I need to lie this card flat on my trimmer, and all I'm going to do is take off that edge to blunt the top of the card. And if it needs any trimming at the bottom, now is the time you can do it. I'm also going to do the same thing to my spare piece. Now once you've got your card and your spare piece together, all you're going to do is make a little mark in the middle, and you're just going to punch a hole in there, and that's just to thread your ribbon through. Now keep your spare piece on one side and open up your card, and what you're going to do is glue these together so that you've got more strength to your tag. So all I'm doing is putting down some wet glue, and then I'm going to spread it around so that I know it's all covered and it will all stick, and this will just give it extra strength. So that's just been spread around just with my finger, and then I can close that tag up and make sure that it's all pressed down, and go away and clean my hands. So once that's glued, I can just take an eraser and just remove the pencil marks. And there's my tag now ready to decorate, and that's my spare piece if I should need it. So to decorate the tag, I've cut myself a piece of paper that's the same shape as my tag, and I've just taken a distressing tool and just distressed the edges. Now if you don't have one of these, don't worry, you can just use the edge of your scissors. So before I add this to my card, I'm going to use an old paper stencil, and it's just an old die cut really that I'm using as a stencil, and I'm just going to spread on there some embossing paste. So we're not covering it all, we're just adding little bits. So I'll put some at the top, and I'll put a little bit more down at the bottom. And then once I've done that, I need to clean off my knife. You can either clean that and keep it for future use, or you just scrap it and use something else. But then I'm going to just sprinkle this embossing paste with some embossing powder, and this is some sparkle powder from Wow. So once your powder's on there, you need to give it a quick go with your heat tool until the powder is melted. It will bubble a little bit, but it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to add this to my tag with some foam tape underneath, just to raise it up. And we'll go around the edges and just curl them in a little bit, just to enhance the distressing. So now I'm going to take a piece of paper, doesn't have to be anything fancy, and I'm just going to tear around the edges. And that's going to sit along there. And again, I'm going to add that with some foam pads. So now I've got a piece of lace that I'm just going to hot glue into position along the side. And hot guns do get hot and the glue will burn you, so please be careful. And then at the top of it, I can just trim off that little extra piece of lace. Now I've got another die cut that I'm going to add to the top of my card, but I'm going to trim it down because I don't need all that on it. So we'll add that along there. And then I'm just going to add in a metal corner. So I've got these little metal accessories, and these are from Wild Orchid Crafts, and I'm going to glue one in at the bottom just along there. So now I'm just going to add in some flowers and some decoration. So these pieces that I'm using here are all from Wild Orchid Crafts. So we'll just slot that in along there. We'll add the big flower on the top, and then we'll push in some of these other pieces, and I think we'll have this trailing one down at the bottom. And then I'm going to just put some other flowers around as they fit into the display. So I'm just going to put some more flowers at the top just to extend the display a little bit, and we'll add in one of these little baubles. And I think that's it. Now I'm going to take out the centre of this flower, so I'm just going to pick it out. But what I'm putting in its place is a really pretty glitter ball. So now I'm taking some wet glue and I'm just going to dab some glue onto the petals. And then I'm just going to sprinkle this with a fine layer of glitter. And we'll top off the excess. And then once that glue's dry, the glitter will lie flat on the card. So I've also got a little metal butterfly, which I'm going to add at the top of the card, just along there. And then the last thing I need to do is just thread some ribbon through the hole at the top and tie it in a really pretty bow. So I'm just going to add in some pearls around the flowers, and I've got a really pretty shiny dazzler piece to add to the bow at the top. So that just about completes my tag, and I think that's really pretty. Now you may be wondering what the extra piece was for, but sometimes when you're adding the embossing paste you could make a mess on the back of the card. So before you actually thread the ribbon through, you can glue that piece in place, and that will keep it nice and clean on the back for you to add your sentiment or just to sign it. And then when you put the ribbon through, that will hold everything in place. So all these Shabby Chic tags have been created in more or less the same way. They're just in different colourways. You have plenty of room on the back to add your greeting, and I think they're all really pretty for any occasion. So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give it the thumbs up, and why not subscribe to my channel so that you never miss a video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.